Yo, what's up epic gamers, my name is Fox and welcome to another video guide of mine. In this video we're gonna go over the Ruby Weapon Extreme, also called Cinder Drift Extreme. I've done this fight several times in Party Finder now, so I think I know the best strats for Party Finder and for you. And I'm gonna try to show you these strats so you have an easy and smooth time to farm that mount. Before we start, make sure to put down the markers. Markers just around the arena in a circle on the small marks that you will see in the second phase. And that's about it. Then assign positions. Now this is how I would assign positions. Now exceptionally, usually you do everything relative to the boss, but in this case don't do it relative to the boss. Make this relative to the arena so people can always look for their marker. It makes it very simple and straightforward. I learned that today the hard way. For this guide, I will start off by telling you a few things that will be reoccurring through the fight instead of giving you a whole timeline of the fight. It's very simple and very straightforward what's the next cast and how to react to it. The two things that will be reoccurring that are not special are the optimized Ultima, which is just an AoE cast, and the stamped Tank Buster. The Tank Buster applies a blunt vulnerability and should be tank swap, but you don't take a lot of damage even with that vulnerability up, so you can just pop cooldowns if your co-tank is dead, for example. The next cast that will be reoccurring is called FFXIV Claw. It indicates that the Ruby Weapon will use its claws for the upcoming mechanic, but there are different follow-up mechanic, which we will all go over. So, at the start of the fight, Ultima will summon the Magitech bit. Those will fire random lasers at people. I think this is completely random, but I'm not sure, but I do believe it is completely random. After that, we'll have the first FFXIV Claw cast, which is followed up by the Helical Claw, which is probably one of my favorite mechanics of this fight. The Helical Claw cast basically puts three lines that are curved around the arena and indicates that big AoEs will go through these lines. Yet at the same time you'll also have the Magitech basically hitting you with lasers, so you gotta be careful how to execute this mechanic. I made some very handy pictures to show you how to handle it. It's very simple actually. The thing is, my drawings aren't that good, so excuse me for all the drawings that are coming up. But hey, I try my best, I swear I try my best. Anyway, so the thing is that you have to bait the lasers before you move into the safe spot. The safe spot is basically always in between the lines, as you can see on the picture. So I suggest stand on the line, bait laser, and then move into the safe spot. You can also be a bit closer, it doesn't matter that much, but it's just to give you an opinion how it works. This will only come one time in the fight, luckily. We will then see the next FFXIV Claw cast, which is followed up with the Raven's Claw. This basically summons tendrils and makes the middle a sandpit in which you will just drown if you stand too long in it, so just don't stand in it, forehead. After the tendrils went out, they will do some form of explosion in the area, so there is always some safe spots. I'm gonna give you just this one here. This is right on top of the long tendrils. No matter where they spawn, there will always be a safe spot right next to the hitbox on top of the long tendril. It's very simple and straightforward. If there's explosions happen, just stand on this and you'll be absolutely fine. After you dodge that like a pro, there will be either one of two casts, which will be Liquefaction or it will be Undermine. Basically, if it's Liquefaction, you have to stand on the tendrils or you will just basically drown throughout the whole arena. But at the same time, you have to drop 3 orbs and move on basically. They apply a magic vulnerability, so don't overlap them, otherwise you'll die. It's very straightforward. Drop your orb, move closer. In the end, you'll end up in the middle. Now, I truly believe that the hardest part of this is actually the positioning and where people have to go. It's not the mechanic which is hard, but where to start, where is my position. So now you take your starting position that you assigned and then you either start from there or you rotate clockwise. There's one important thing. Always have the melees on the close tendrils and the ranged on the long tendrils. If you do not respect that, your melees will just lose uptime, and you don't want that, right? So be a nice guy and adjust for your melees or your tanks, or yeah, you get my point. But yeah, it's actually pretty simple. Here's of course a few pictures for you to show you how you can rotate or how you should rotate if it's on you and where you are, etc, etc. All examples are listed here and you can just take your time and look through these. Now you can also have the undermine counts, of course, right? This basically just means do not stand on the tendrils. You can also tell this by looking at the tendrils, and if they light up red, do not be on them. Go to your your area and then drop the balls and dodge across basically. Have the ranged, of course, on the outside drop their balls, and the melees can actually keep full uptime when they dodge or drop their balls rather. We then have another cast which is reoccurring, which is the Ruby Way, which is a big frontal beam, and it seems to be baited randomly by someone. So nothing special, just dodge literally. We'll then have another Flexi Claw, this time liquefaction, which makes the outside of the arena sands basically, so don't stand on the outside. The Ruby weapon will then dash to a random spot, I think, and from there on it will start casting and it will do these arrows on the floor, right? This looks at first like very intimidating, but it's actually very simple. Basically, have you and your group be positioned on the opposite side of this arrow. Look exactly where this position is safe. You can mirror this picture also and it will be absolutely fine. He will then execute some dashes and he'll end up on the opposite side of where he started. Then you look at him and see that one side has a glowing claw. Just look at the video, I'll show you there. And you just have to be on the opposite side of that claw. If you're on the claw side, you'll get hit and you'll die. But if you're on the opposite side, you'll be safe. But after he dashes, you just pop sprint. You don't even have to, but it's safer. And just run to the opposite side and you'll be absolutely fine. Very simple actually, just looks very complicated to be honest. The next new mechanic, which is also pretty simple, so I didn't make any pictures for it, is going to be the Ruby Dynamics. It's basically a dynamo, so get into the hitbox, and then there's going to be a stack marker onto healers. Spread there according to your original position basically, and you have 4 people soak it. This is followed up with cut and run, where you have to be spread out on the edges, so you're going to get hit there. If you are not on the edges, that is. One thing here I want to stress, please give your melees the first spot, right? I see tanks that are trying to basically kill me there the whole time by trying to get more uptime than I do. Also for tanks, try to move to the opposite side with your group, because I've seen tanks that are like stay on the side where it starts and then the boss just jumps over and then it goes back, and you really want to avoid more movement than the boss already has in this whole phase. So, to be honest, there's one more mechanic after this that you can see if you have low DPS, but I have to honestly say I haven't seen it enough to actually have video footage of this, and I can't explain it without video footage. So, it's just some dash mechanic again. I've seen it, but it's very simple also. Just kind of follow him around and you'll be fine. I'm really sorry I don't have footage for this, because it's really hard to actually see that mechanic in this fight. And that basically concludes the first phase of this fight. It's probably the hardest phase. The second phase isn't that hard. So once you get past the first phase and you have the checkpoint, easy peasy. It's gonna be an easy duty complete. So, welcome to the second phase. This is basically a checkpoint now, so if you wipe here, you will restart here. It's pretty simple here onwards. A few things before we start. There are lots of casts that feel really irrelevant in this phase. I'm gonna rather explain what's gonna happen in order than explain by casts, basically. And one thing beforehand. Keep your burst for the ads. You don't need to burst the nail at the start, right? You just keep your burst, keep a bit of your opener, delay some stuff, and use it on the ads. You want to actually kill the ads before they swap again, because they can't swap, and then you have to then basically go over to the other ad and tank swap, blah blah blah. So honestly, keep your burst for the ads. It's gonna make your life so much easier. Anyway, having that said, let's then start. So the important thing that happens after Nail spawns is that she's gonna cast negative personae and basically spawns 2 Raven's images, right? One is red, one is blue, and you'll get a debuff which tells you which one you can't attack. So if you have a blue debuff, you have to attack the red one, and vice versa. Very simple. So you move to your appropriate ad and you start bursting it with the burst that you properly delayed, and then you have basically the Greater Memory cast, which will spawn 2 heads that will tether to a random DPS on the opposite side, right? So this head has to be basically dragged across the arena to the other ad, the red head into the blue ad, and vice versa. This can also be on healers, I believe, but I'm not 100% sure, but it's never on tanks as far as I know. These ads will then cast one of the following: Luna, Dynamo, or Iron Chariot. These are two very old school expressions in Final Fantasy XIV. Luna Dynamo is a in mechanic and the Iron Chariot is an out mechanic. You want to dodge the Chariot to the north part of the map because that's safe, because the Luna Dynamo has a very big area around it. So make sure if you have the Iron Chariot cast to go to the north part of the arena. Then there will be random dives on DPS again, and we'll have the Ruby Claw tank buster basically. Use some cooldowns for this, it doesn't hit too hard, I wouldn't involve this. Either you kill your ad now, or they're gonna swap basically after doing again the greater memory cast. If they swap, you have to move over to the other ad and kill that one. After you kill both ads, then Nail will do one more mechanic, which is called Negative Aura, which basically is just a standard look away mechanic. Face your character looking outwards and you're done with the mechanic. Then Nail will start doing lots of AoE damage. Make sure to stack up for this so your healers do not have a hard time healing you through this. After she's done casting AoEs, you will see the important cast for you, which is going to be the Meteor Mine, right? It will put random markers on people from 1 to 8, but it doesn't matter which number you have. You're going to drop your meteor on the edge of the arena to your assigned position that you got at the very start on the macro, or on however you decided your positions, right? So basically go outside, drop it down, but there's one thing: if you are the meteor number 8, you have to drop it in melee range. Don't drop it too close, so basically max melee or a bit further, but make sure it is close enough so that people can stand behind it, because there will be a big rocket or Dalamud coming down, I'm not quite sure what it is, and you have to stand beside the rock basically to dodge this AoE, otherwise you will die. While the meteors start exploding in the order they have been dropped, she will start casting Screech, which is just a normal knockback. You can either invul this knockback and stand already behind the rock, or you let yourself get pushed behind the rock that you then use for safety for the next attack basically. Make sure to not forget to move away from the 8th meteor after you dodge the big AoE, because otherwise it will explode and you will die from that. We'll then move on to the next important mechanic in its phase, which is going to be the Mark Magitech command. Arrows on the floor start blinking up and they like go into this, basically they follow each other, right? And then you have a tank standing the last one to pick up a comet that will drop down, and they have to basically hold this. Most tanks I suggest to invul this if you have it, because this makes it very easy, because it does quite a lot of damage, so it's easier on the healers. Otherwise pop a lot of cooldowns, because as I said, it does a lot of damage. DPS as usual, make sure to DPS them down. By the way, these comets are going to be spawning north and south or east and west always. At the same time, the people that are closest to Nail's hitbox will get basically marked with a marker above their head and will drop a silverish line AoE. Make sure you do not put that on the tank, otherwise the tank will immediately die. So I suggest that range pick this up basically by standing inside of the hitbox, and then you move out and drop it somewhere safe where it hits no one. And that's honestly already it. There's not much more to this fight. That was phase 2, which is a bit disappointing compared to phase 1, but it's very simple, so it's kind of a guaranteed kill. It will then just start casting AoEs over and over again, and honestly I haven't seen much more of the fight. The DPS check is very lenient, so shouldn't be an issue for most people, and yeah, that's basically all important that's in the fight. So I hope you enjoyed this guide. I tried a bit of a different approach to this guide. Hope you guys really liked it. I tried to put in lots of graphs for you to explain everything. And yeah, I hope you will get your mount or your weapon, because these weapons are right now, as of patch 5.2, really good. They are basically for free since you can farm them, and they have pretty good stats. They're better than the crafted weapons, for example, so I really suggest grabbing them if you care about doing enough damage in duties and if you want to raid basically. So thank you for watching. Make sure to check out my Twitch channel where I nearly stream every day. You can also support me there by subscribing. You can also check out my Twitter and you know the drill, like, subscribe, blah blah blah. And yeah, that would be it. You guys have a good day. Cheers.